Breakups are always tough. But going through a breakup that feels like a bad mistake is one of the worst feelings in the world. I would know. Me and my other half, and also the co-author of this blog, Gabriel, broke up 3 times. Each one of those 3 breakups was absolutely devastating to me. The idea of separating from a person I cared about so deeply felt straight up wrong. From the very moment we broke up, I wanted to get him back already. And I managed to do it, 3 times. It's now been over 7 years since our last breakup and we've been happily together ever since. Our breakups were a mistake I managed to fix. There is a lot of stigma around getting back together with an ex. Your friends might frown at you, family members might judge you for it. But the reality of the matter is, approximately 50% of couples who break up, get back together again. In this article, I will share with you the strategies I used to make my ex want me back so that you too can get him to miss you and chase you again. 1. Heal your ego so that you feel more attractive again. Even though breakups can be mutual, they're generally initiated by one person only. Being on the receiving end of this kind of rejection inevitably takes a toll on one's self-esteem. When Gabriel and I broke up, it was he who initiated it, and because of this, it immediately made me doubt myself. I started wondering about things like, was it my fault? Am I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? The biggest problem with these kinds of thoughts is that they are a huge barrier that will actually stand in the way of you getting your ex to want to come back to you. They will make you doubt your own value and act in ways that can undermine your success. That's why it's really important that before jumping straight into getting your ex back, you let your wounded ego heal a bit first. There are many ways to go about this. The first time Gabriel and I broke up, I just partied for a week straight. I was still at university back then. The second time I went on a relaxing vacation. The third time I decided to join an NGO and helped planning a primary school in a developing country. The point of this step is to take your mind off those self-defeating thoughts so that you can feel good in your own skin again. All the experiences I described above is what allowed me to relax and feel better about myself. This in turn made me more attractive to my ex-boyfriend. It was the first and necessary step of how I got him back. I get that the situation you're in might feel extremely urgent. You likely want to get your ex back as fast as you can. But you can't skip this step. You need to take some time to recover from the breakup and rebuild your self-esteem to get him to want you again. Once you feel more like your old self, you can then proceed to step 2. 2. Get a grip on your desperation. Breakups can completely change the power dynamic between a couple. The person who initiated the breakup tends to suddenly gain a lot more control over the situation, while the other side is often left feeling like they've just completely lost a handle on things. Losing all sense of control over a relationship tends to make people act desperate. When Gabriel broke up with me, I was as desperate as it gets. Desperate to get back together, desperate to feel like he loves me again. Desperate to put it all behind us and pretend like it never happened. Back then I had this really strong urge to just let go, allow all my desperation to roam free, and dictate all my actions. Luckily, I didn't let that happen. The biggest problem with acting desperate is that it will make your ex feel like he has got full control over you. He won't need to worry about losing you. He'll feel secure and confident that you'll always be there if he ever decides to take you back. Also, he won't have any reason to want to get back together with you anytime soon. He will feel free to act as he pleases for as long as he wants with no consequences whatsoever. Obviously, this is not a position anyone ever wants to be in. There is a simple way in which you can avoid falling into this dangerous pitfall: by taking charge of the situation. Don't let your emotions control what you say and do, act strategically instead. Notice your own desperation and keep it in check. Don't let him feel like he has full control over you. Don't just beg and hope he will regret losing you and come back on his own either. Understand, this is a game you're both playing. In order to get him back, you have to stop letting him endlessly win and play your cards close to your chest instead. There is no way around it. If you want to make him want you back, you have to take control and make it happen yourself. You might even resort to partially cutting him off to get him to miss you again. 3. Realize that he still wants you. This is something that the old me would have really needed to hear back in the day when Gabriel and I were broken up. The thing about attraction in relationships is that it never really goes away. The fact that your ex was into you means that he most likely still is into you. That's because, firstly, chemistry is not really something we have control over. It's either there between two people, or it's not. Secondly, people get attached to their partners. They do, no matter whether they deny it or not. It's just human nature to get attached to other people. Even if your ex hid his feelings, because even emotionally unavailable types miss their partners, Gabriel was also the kind of guy to really play down his feelings and attachment towards me. He pretended that the breakups didn't affect him much. And that he didn't care whether we were together or not. But you know what, it was just an act that was supposed to keep me hooked and make me endlessly chase after him. This is something he actually now, not proudly, confirms. So even if your ex is acting all cold and distant, don't get fooled by that. It's kind of like a power move that is supposed to ensure that he can stay in control of you and the relationship. Everybody gets attached. People can't just stop caring about someone from one day on to the next. It's impossible. So if your ex wanted you back then, he most likely still wants you now. Fully realizing this truth can be absolutely groundbreaking when it comes to getting him to come back. You don't need to make your ex want you again, he already does. All you have to do now is get him to admit it and want to follow that feeling again. 4. Get him hooked again with self-respect and boundaries. Now that you know deep down your ex still wants you, let's talk about what you can do to make his feelings for you stronger again. The first time Gabriel and I broke up, we went for a coffee a few weeks after our breakup. We were sitting at a nice place, catching up. The conversation was good, I was totally flirting with him a little and we both inevitably started feeling closer again. When it was time to say goodbye, Gabriel leaned in to kiss me, as though we were still dating. But rather than reciprocating, I moved away. I told him, "You can't just break up with me and then try to kiss me a couple of weeks later." And I angrily walked away. I missed him and all, but I wasn't okay with more intimacy without him giving me more security first. And guess what? Me standing my ground caused our breakup to become more real to him, too. Suddenly, the tables had turned, and that interaction is what got him texting me again. Getting your ex back is a tricky process. You're trying to reconnect with him and reignite what's been lost. But at the same time, you have to respect where you're at and not let him override your boundaries whenever he has a sudden change of heart. On one hand, you're giving him what he wants, making him feel good, making him remember the good times you two had together. But you also have to make him feel that his decision to break up has consequences. That his boyfriend privileges have been revoked for the time being. It's your own self-respect and boundaries that make him miss you and want to chase you again. They're your best compass when it comes to deciding what to do, what to say, etc. That's what allowed me to get my ex back. Having that coffee date experience made Gabriel come back fast. But it wasn't the only thing I needed to do for us to be able to finally get back together. This brings me to the last step of your journey. 5. Remove the barriers to get him to chase you again. In reality, getting your ex to want you back is much simpler than we're led to believe. Chances are that in this very moment, he is secretly pining after you and longing to feel close to you again. But if this is really the case, then why doesn't he just text you and try to get you back yourself? That's a very good question. Fully understanding the answer to this one is going to play a major role in you successfully getting him to want you back. You see, people always break up for a reason. So even though your ex most likely wants you right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to get back together with you. Whatever it was that made him want to break up in the first place is likely still acting as a barrier that prevents him from wanting to invest in a relationship with you at this very moment. There were multiple reasons why Gabriel and I broke up those 3 times. Some of them were purely his issues. Others, on the other hand, had to do with some things I'd say and do, or not do. The secret in making him want you back has nothing to do with doing things to attract him again, because he feels attracted to you already. It's all about removing the barriers that are preventing him from wanting to be together with you. Fixing just one of those issues on my end that caused Gabriel to want to break up was enough for us to, not only to get back together, but also to never break up ever again.